Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. As always, we've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be starting off here in just a moment with another interesting round of Coach's Corner, and I've got two of my fellow professionals here with me, a couple of favorites, and I'll introduce them in just a moment. But let me remind you, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And the best way to find us, of course, is go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or just type Golf Talk Live up in the search key, and that will take you to the main page. And, of course, we'll be front and center right there on the page during the live broadcast. But for some reason, if you can't join us live, not to worry. You can just scroll down on that page, and you'll find the on-demand section. And that's where all of the previously aired shows, including tonight's, will be there a little bit later on after the broadcast. And you can listen to them in their entirety in the on-demand section. For those of you that want to tune in maybe in a different social media platform, you're welcome to also go to iTunes.com, Stitcher.com, and now TuneIn.com. And again, just type in Golf Talk Live, and that will take you to the appropriate pages there. But for those of you tuning in live tonight, thank you very much. As always, I appreciate your continued support and ever-growing audience, and you guys just do a great job in offering your support. So I appreciate that, plus a lot of the great feedback I get along the way. As I said, I got a great show for you tonight. Two great guys here on the Coach's Corner panel. They've been on here many, many times, and I always look forward to having these guys on. Of course, I'm talking about Clint Wright and Pete Buchanan. Let me just tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll bring them out here, and we'll begin tonight's discussion on the Coach's Corner panel. First up, of course, is Clint Wright. He's a 30-year member of the PGA. He's also a partner at TGM Golf and a big proponent of the R3 approach. In my opinion, he's among the best covering the short game today, and he's certainly one of my favorite guests and panelists here in the Coach's Corner. Also, one of my favorites as well is Pete Buchanan. He's the founder and director of instruction and owner of Plain Simple Golf LLC, which, of course, houses the Plain Simple Golf Circuit and Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace, and has been teaching himself well over 30 years as well. So we're well covered this evening on Coach's Corner. So, guys, welcome to the panel.
Glad to be here, Ted.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Good to be here.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. And also, don't forget, very quickly, before we start, guys, I forgot to mention, for those of you that want to call in during the live broadcast, you're welcome to do so. Call 646-716-4667, or you can certainly email any questions or comments to me personally during the broadcast, and my email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about, this was actually a conversation I had last week on the panel, and we're going to make a few adjustments here, but basically the gist of the conversation tonight, and I think, Clint, I'm going to give you a break and not start with you first this time. I think I'm going to start with Pete. So, Pete, Pete, I'm going to throw you under the bus first.
There we go.
And here it comes. We're going to talk about really changing the face of the game and whether or not we really need to do it as an industry. Lots of things going on, lots of discussion throughout the golf industry as to whether or not we're doing everything we can to really help grow the game. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the way we actually teach the game today as opposed to maybe 20 or 30 years ago for those that have been teaching that long. Do we need to change the way we approach our teaching methods today, or can we just sort of stick with the status quo? What are your thoughts, Pete?
Well, coming from an old school standpoint and what I learned, I think one of the things that's missing in today's teaching more than anything else is just basic cause and effect. I know that there's a lot of great technology out there which has given us a lot of information, but you still have to go out and fix what the numbers are telling you. So I think from an overall standpoint, I would love to see us, add into the mix more cause and effect to get everyone to understand, why things happen, and when you make changes, let the students know why. I mean, I run across so many players today that, you ask them, do you know why you hit the shots you hit, and they have no idea. And to me, that's just
right.
I hate to use the word, but that's just a travesty. They should know this by now. And so I
Right.
also talk to a lot of young teachers, and they just don't know cause and effect. I mean, they can just get on there and look at instruction, and not that they're not getting results. Don't get me wrong. But I think from an overall standpoint, I think the better we can get the overall masses to understand what they're doing and to know why they hit the shots they hit, but most of all, how to fix it, I think then we're on our way to a larger road. And I think the technology can enhance that. I mean, I use it myself, so
Sure.
but I use it in an effect of making sure they understand why. But I just see, to me, I mean, that's the number one thing I see is, coming out of the golf schools with John Jacobson, we were all about cause and effect, and then, getting out and teaching on my own after that and just seeing how much the lack of it there was. I was a little bit surprised.
Right.
And I think it would just make the overall teaching industry a little bit better if we had more instruction along those lines.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Pete. I think that one of the problems that I see with a lot of the method teaching, if you will, and again, everybody's entitled to whatever way they want or style that they want to use, I guess, is the problem is they don't give enough information. It's very statistical, and it's not really explaining, as you said, the cause and effect of what's happening to the golf ball and why it's acting the way it is, if you will. And a lot of times people get all kinds of information on what they should be doing, but they don't really understand fully why they need to be doing that or why they shouldn't be doing that. So I agree with that analogy. Well done. Clint, what about you? I mean, communication's a big part of golf instruction, and I think sometimes we get wrapped up in technology. We're not really effectively communicating sometimes with our students. So where do you see way golf instruction is today? Do you sort of side along with Pete, or do you have some other thoughts?
No, I tend to agree with him 100%, but I can, add a little bit to it. I mean, the points you make are absolutely valid, but the problem that I see sometimes is that you get a person trying to make the technology give them the number that somebody has told them they needed to make it show up.
Right.
I guess I may not explain it really well, is that I go out, I'm trying to get this flight scope in my club speed to this, to that, and before I know it, my objective here is to make the technology give me the right answer versus using the technology to determine the path that I need to take to improve.
Right.
Bingo.
See, I think that a lot of the technology we use today is really no different than an X-ray. I want what the X-ray is showing me, but I can't make the X-ray give me what I want it to do. It's going to show me what's there, give me the idea and the path I need to take to fix the problem. So I see a lot of times is that we're not using the technology as fact finders. We're using technology as the ruler for success.
Right.
And we get trapped into the technology number versus the path that the technology will give us for true improvement. And outside of that, I think Pete hit it right on the head. I mean, you still have to be able to communicate the idea. You still have to be a teacher. You still have to know what's in the textbook to teach the student. And the more I have an understanding of the cause and effect, the much better communicator I'll be. And that's pretty simple. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I think that's true. That's going to be true forever.
Yeah, and I again, I agree with you 100% as well, Clint, on your thoughts. I think too what a lot of in my understanding, is I think that what they've tried to do in the industry with a lot of this technology, for years we had all kinds of training aids, and certainly there's still many of them out there, and some great ones. But I think what they've tried to do with the technology is to, in some ways, not just give a stronger visual cue, I guess, but also to replace some of that as a way of, instead of having a bag full of training aids over here, we can do it with video analysis, or we can do it with and try to eliminate some of those steps in order to be able to accomplish the same goal. But the problem is that, as you said, Pete, that if you're trying to get to a specific number all the time, or Clint, I think you might have said this, if you're trying to get to a specific number all the time, but you're not really understanding the whys, then you get sort of caught up in this fog, if you will, and I think this adds to the frustration. And this, Clint, I know you've had a good breath now, so I'm going to bounce it back to you for the next question, which leads into this. And this was my good friend Byron Casper and I were chatting here recently, and he talked to a group of millennials, and we all know that some of the millennials can be pretty tough to get out there. They've sort of got their own way, if you will, but he had probably about 20 or so millennials that he was talking to, and he asked them, had a discussion about golf, and about 9 out of 10 or 90% of them came back with the same answer, and that was, in their minds, they do not see golf as being fun. So my question to you, Clint, is what are we doing, or what do we need to do, or should we be doing, to make golf more fun again? Because I think with a lot of some of the things we've talked about over the years on Coach's Corner, with the technology and some of the methodology, if you will, and some of the instruction out there, it's become so complicated that people are just not enjoying it. It's like coming into a science lab. What do we need to do to make this game fun again?
Well, we all should have invested in Topgolf. That's what we should have done.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, how do we get Topgolf to the golf course? We're having this discussion right now. I honestly believe that the most serious challenge that the golf industry has had since I've been in the business is, how do we get the millennium generation to play golf? And if we can't solve that, if we can't solve that, we got a problem, because that's the next large generation coming into our sport, or any sport. So we do have to make it fun, and it is a serious challenge, because if you look at the research, they show that time and money matters to them. Well, we can't make it free. At some point you're losing money per player if you try to make it too cheap. And there is a set amount of time it takes to play the game. I mean, you just, and you don't want to get to the point where they feel like you're treating them like juniors and kids, putting them at the 150-yard marker where you could play in an hour. I mean, so it's really a difficult challenge, but I think if we took I almost want to think, and one of the ideas that we're batting around right now with this club that I'm at right now, is that it's almost like you have to make golf secondary. Right. You have to have something else to get them to the club. A drink after work, or movie night, or trivia night. And heck, let's go play a few holes. A 3-hole circuit. It's almost like you need to trick them into coming. And then, it's almost like this idea you talk about, that you go to a football game for the party, and then sooner or later a game breaks out.
Right.
And it's almost like we need to have, sooner or later golf's going to break out here, but we really didn't come for golf to start with. We came for the activity, and one of the activities is a 3-hole golf tournament, or a 3-hole play. So in my opinion, you almost have to trick them into coming, but it's a serious challenge to our industry, without a doubt.
You know what, Clint? I think you just gave me $1 million idea, and I think you, Pete, and I, and we'll get John Hughes in and a few of the other Coach's Corner panel regulars to all jump in together. But we need to tailgate at a golf event. That's what we need to do. I think you're exactly right. I think we need to get some tailgate going at the golf, get them out there, maybe some good barbecuing going and that sort of thing, and get them out there, and then, like you say, have a 3-hole scrimmage, if you will.
Hey, and we got plenty of empty parking lots. Hell, we got plenty of room.
Yeah.
Right.
Plenty of parking, that's for sure.
Yeah, we got plenty of parking. But no,
right.
I honestly believe that we almost have to have something else, and golf becomes secondary to begin with, and then hopefully it becomes primary.
Right.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And Pete, I want to get you to jump in here with some thoughts as well. But I want to say something very quickly. Clint, you raise a valid point about cost as well, because a lot of these kids and the millennials coming up and that, they're very, very price conscious. I mean, they don't want to pay. I mean, you look at a lot of the music industry, what they've struggled with, trying to make money and I'm not saying I feel sorry for them, but a lot of these mediums that are out there now where you can download free music or free videos and things like that, it's presented a challenge for a lot of artists out there. And I think the golf industry is sort of coming down that same line. What do you think about that, Pete? I mean, I think that's kind of what's happening to the golf industry.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I love what Clint was talking about. I mean, it used to be that the golf course, supplied the restaurant, the driving range, and everything else, and now it has to be the other way around. Your restaurant and your range need to drive your golf course. And so he's absolutely right. You got to come up with some new ideas and new ways to get them out there. I'm like with Clint. I can't wait until every hole is like Topgolf. I mean, you're going out there shooting at targets. Maybe you make it 6 holes, but they're shooting at different targets as they go instead of one range. I mean, we got to adapt with the times here. And the millennials are all about, electronics. I mean, we've talked about this too, Ted. Why I do so many lessons online because they've all got them in their pockets. I mean, they all have a smartphone, so it's easy to contact them. All you got to do is, hey, there's Coach. So they'll get back to you if you text them. If you call them, or you'll never get them. You send them a text, they'll get right. Or you go on Facebook and ping them, they'll get right back to you. So, it's this new wave of technology and this new way of thinking. From a cost perspective, maybe you build it into a like you said, you've got a tailgate barbecue golf package, and you just put it all into one. If they know they can get some value out of some food and some drink, maybe they'll come and play. So I think you're definitely right. It's a whole new way we have to look at this to make it successful across the board.
We had an interesting guest on the Women of Golf this past Tuesday with Cindy and I, and she's of course an LPGA professional, one of the top 50 in the country, and she mentioned the fact that obviously a lot of the private clubs host a lot of different events and things like that to get people to come out, but a lot of the public courses don't offer anything. They don't really have anything, and the ones that are available have some sort of golf league or something going there. So they're always filled up, and there's nowhere for, sort of the average folks to go and play. So I think the industry also, in addition to making it a little bit more interesting and getting people out there, need to have availability. There's a lot of great golf courses out there, but for a lot of these millennials, they don't have the time, Clint, as you pointed out, and they don't want to spend, $65 or $150 around, and to go out and play a 5.5 hour, round of golf. They don't have the time, and they don't want to spend that kind of money. So we need to, maybe get into some more executive courses, but and get that out, and more 9-hole challenges. There's a lot of different options, but the industry definitely needs to do something.
Ted,
there's also
Ted, you hit on
go ahead.
I was going to say you hit on a great thing there. From the time it takes to play. I mean, we need to have a serious conversation about speeding these rounds up. I mean, when I was a kid playing at the club, if you played more than 4 hours, you got in trouble. I mean, it was 3.5 and you're out of there. And, and we took our time. I mean, we weren't running, but I mean, now, I don't play many events anymore. I just don't have, a 6-hour scramble is just rough.
Well, I'll tell you, Pete, when you and I were coming up, golf courses, like the average round at the club I'm at right now is 4 hours and 15 to 4 hours and a half. Okay? But it's not tee to green. There's so much travel time between the green and the tee. The golf course I grew up on, I agree with you, but it was green to tee. Green to tee, green to tee. And so we built golf courses for different things. But one of the other things that we're giving some serious thought to is a graduated scale membership for 35 and under.
Right.
Hey,
good idea.
Come on in. We charge you about half price, but every year on the anniversary date it goes up a little bit. For like 3 years, and then you're back to full price. So again, try to create the habit, and then get them going. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we had a golf course just announced 2 days ago up here that they were closing, been open for 50 years. And one of the things they did 2 years, one of the things they did 2 years ago was they closed their bar and grill.
Ugh. That hurts.
Just the opposite of what we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Well, and guys, the thing is that golf courses have to be certainly more creative, and this sort of brings me, and Pete, we're going to come back to you now. There's been a lot of discussion on what courses can do. We as golf professionals, there's things obviously that we need to do as professionals to make it more fun and make it more interesting. But the golf courses have to do something as well. They have to learn to adapt to a declining golf population, here in the U.S. And there's no denying the stats don't lie. Your good friend there at Clemson, Clint, could probably back this up. But Clemson University actually put out a study here recently about that very thing, and the numbers are quite shocking. But as a golf professional, when we're working at a golf course, a lot of times there's conflict between management and the pros about what they should do and shouldn't do to drive more interest in. And a lot of times there's budgetary, discussions that just don't seem to be realistic. But I think that the golf courses need to do something, need to make changes as well. And one of the things I think that they should do, and Pete, I'm going to get your thoughts on this as well, is they need to do a better job of reaching out to their communities. And I don't mean just, trying to get the business types in and sending out a flyer. They need to get out in the school systems, in the community centers, what have you, and get them out there and start offering clinics, not just at the golf course, but actually going out to different areas, and whether it be through after-school programs. And there are some of that going on now, but I think it needs to be on a much bigger scale, and it needs to be coordinated. One of the problems it is, the PGA and the LPGA have some great programs out there, but they're all sort of working independent of one another, and there's really no consensus of, okay, well, what do I do when when my kid's this age, or when they reach that age, what's available? People don't know unless they're embedded into the golf industry. So, Pete, my question to you is, based on some of what I just said, what do the golf courses need to do? What are some things that they need to do to be avoid closing up, like Clint just talked about one of his courses?
Well, I think, first of all, you just hit it on the head. I mean, if you're in any town that you're in, you need to be involved with everything that's going on, from the chamber to, the city council. I mean, I'd go in and talk to the local government. I'd talk to the Chamber of Commerce. Get in with the school district and try to find out, what we can do, what we can offer for golf across the board. Even to a certain extent, we've got a local golf course here that has a 9-hole par 3 that they don't do anything with. I said, man, have you ever thought about having a skins game? I mean, you'd attract some guys in here if you'd have a weekly skins game with carryovers. It's all par 3s. And just thinking outside the box a little bit. But I think golf courses aren't used to being out front and aggressive from a marketing standpoint. I mean, they always just kind of let everything come to them. And now they have to turn the tide. You got social media on your side now. And, you can really do some really cool things without having to spend a lot of money. And you can get yourself propped up in the neighborhood and across and get into a lot of people's, different deals. a local one here. Go to the city and see if you can get a small little blurb in the monthly newsletter that goes out. That won't cost you anything. Give the mayor a lesson and get a deal in the newsletter. It's a simple thing you can do. But I think you're right. I think they need to be more involved in their communities, and I think that in turn will help them create more things to go.
Right. Right. Clint, let me ask you something. Let me just say this first, and I want to get you to jump in. One of the things that I see here locally in Panama City Beach, as an example, with a lot of the golf courses, the only advertising I see is when they're offering a special on green fees, or if they've got a tournament of some kind or a corporate event going on. That's it. I see nothing else from any of the golf courses in this area. So as somebody in the industry that sees that, the first thing that I'm thinking about, what sort of a community outreach program are you offering when you don't have anything other than, $49 for, a round plus cart?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only advertising that people see.
Right.
So, that's not very exciting to me. And I'm in the golf industry. What do you think about the course? What do they need to do?
Well, they could do a lot of things. The question is whether the owners are willing to look long-term versus short-term. Pete brought it up a minute ago. You got to get in the schools. Well, a golf course owner looks at that and says, hey, well, some of them may see it, but that's long-term. Get the kids playing, mom and dad play. Maybe, you could go down that road if you wanted to, and it's been successful over the years. The bigger junior camps you got, the more successful club you got. But, what we've done over the years is kind of work a little behind the scenes and work more through golf outings, charity groups, sheriff's tournaments, things of that nature, to get different people on the golf course and promote the facilities that way. But that's old school, too. We're dealing with a totally different marketing avenues today than we ever thought. It's almost like, from a golf professional standpoint and a golf course operator, it's almost like you got to be the ringmaster at the circus. You got to be the barker. You got to get people going. And people, how many times does the golf pro, and we did this years ago, and I haven't done it recently, go speak to the JCs. Go speak to the Rotary Club. They're looking for people to come talk at lunch. Get out there and talk. Go and make a presentation in front of your city council and county council, even if it's just for beer night or something. Go get in the minutes of that meeting, and but go to the what we're looking at right now is we're trying to get involved with the JCs.
Yeah.
Well, JCs is a young professional organization. You all know the JCs, so that's who we're aiming towards. But if those people would go out, and I don't know whether you can make a flat copy ad exciting. It's just the nature of it. No. It's $49. Come play, please. We need somebody to show up. Those ads are never going to get any better. They are boring. It's about the event. Okay.
Right.
The core golfer is going to come play when they want to play, and basically for the price they want to play. You can go on Golf Now, CBS Golf, and you can get a good price no matter what. So that's not, to me, a place of exciting. Where that ad needs to be is promoting trivia night.
Yep.
That's where that ad needs to be. I'm not going to advertise my price. We advertise a concept.
Mm-hmm.
And that will bring them, that people will bring them out. There's just off the cuff, there's a little local wine bar here that on Monday night there'll be 10 people there. On Wednesday night when they have trivia, there'll be 50 people there. Now the wine's no cheaper, no better than it was on Monday, but there was an event.
Right.
There was another reason for them to come. And that's what we've got to create for our golf courses, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it's like I said earlier, a lot of the private clubs certainly not all of them, but they will do things like that for their members. They will have some sort of an event,
Right.
going on to get their membership out there. But even that's getting old. You guys are exactly right. I think the industry has to start stepping out of the box. The golf pro has to be that sort of ringleader, if you will, and has to get out there, speak to various different groups, and have different events. Let me tell you something and I'm just sort of paraphrasing this a little bit. So if you're listening, John, I apologize, but John Decker was on last week on the Coach's Corner panel. I know you both have familiar with him. And he talked about something that at the course, the course that he was on, they had some sort of an event, and what they did, it was out on the range, but what they did is they had some pumpkins out there, and they had not figurines, but I guess photos, large, blown up photos of. It's a fairly big course, so they have a bunch of golf professionals working there. And they invited a group of people out, a bunch of people out there to, hit some balls and obviously hit the targets. So they made kind of an event. They had some sort of event. I'm sure there was more to it than that, but it was very successful. It was fun because you could hit your favorite golf pro, and it was kind of like what they did on Big Break with the glass. And they obviously had some things, but you could do some, maybe some more challenging skills challenges and things like that, and have some prizes and things, but something that's engaging as opposed to just straight lessons and regular golf outings. I mean, those things are great. Business types certainly want to have their corporate events at a golf course because there's a million reasons why it can be very successful. But for the average Joe, and especially the millennials out there, the last thing that they want to do is come out there and just take a straight old upfront golf lesson or, play 9 or 18 holes. To them, they don't see it as being fun. And again, it's hot out there. It's, $50, $60 a round. They're not very good to begin with because they haven't played very much. So there's a million reasons for them not to come out. So, Clint and Pete, as you both said, let's wrap an event to get them out there. And golf is just part of that event. But there's other things that go on, and make it something that's fun and interesting. And as a byproduct, you're exactly right, guys, is I think that you're going to see golf will benefit greatly if you have some kind of an interesting event to get them out there in the first place. People will say, oh, you know what, hey, this is a great facility, I like it, and you know what, I've been thinking about taking up the game or whatever they're thinking. But it's going to get them out there and enjoying the facility, and the golf courses are going to supplement their income in a different way. Agree? Disagree?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about another. Since we've sort of touched on a little bit, is time restraints with students. This is a big issue for a lot of, and I know we've touched a little bit about it, but Pete, I'm going to jump back to you here for a second. This is a big issue, and I think one of the things that you pointed out earlier is one way to get around this, and that is doing a lot of online instruction. People just don't have the time anymore. That's a big thing I hear all the time is, I just don't have the time to come to the golf course and spend 30 minutes to an hour, to take a lesson. We've got to figure out some creative ways to be able to reach some of these up and coming generations, because they're not coming to the golf courses like they used to. So what are your thoughts there? What else can we do?
Well, one of the things we did is, a lot of these young guys are into their cars. So we had, there's a group here that has Cars and Coffee, where they go on a Saturday morning and they have their coffees and they all show off their cars. We did one at the golf course. So we had Cars and Golf. Right. And so they all came in, parked their cars. We sealed off one part of the parking lot. They all got to park, do their stuff, and then we, had them play 9 holes afterwards. It's just a different way to get them out there. Worked out very well. But, from a time standpoint, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, most of my lessons anymore are, 30, 45 minutes. I mean, that's enough. And I can get it done in that time anyway, which is a bonus. But, I think, as Clint was saying earlier, time and money are their two biggest things that they're looking at. So, you have to be able to dibble into each one without trying to get it too expensive or take too long. And, there's definitely a market for it. I mean, my son's going to be 30, he going to be 30 or 29, whatever he's going to be, 29. But you know, he's I'm talking to he and his buddies all the time. It's too many years now. I remember when he was 5. Anyway, but you know, I'm talking to him all the time about trying to come up with different ideas. You know, when have a 9-hole scramble with the food trucks afterwards. You know, bring one of the local bands in and have a concert. You know, at the club. I mean, just different things to start thinking outside of the box. That, you know, those are things they'll go to, and so they'll spend a little bit more time at those things if you can entice them. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You just have to come up with, you know, those different types of things, and, you know, find out what are they interested in. I mean, I know one of the things we used to do on the golf course as an assistant. I mean, one of the assistants' job was to go on the course and talk to the players, find out what's going on. What do you like? What do you don't like? You know, how was the last tournament? Did you like it? What would you like to see? You know, how do you like the food? We were out there all the time, and that's where a lot of our ideas came from, is we just go out and ask. It doesn't matter what course you're at. Go and ask them what they want. What are they looking for? How come your buddies aren't here? You know, I see you guys hang around with all your other friends, but when you come play golf, there's only 3 of you. Where are the rest of the guys? Well, how can we get them here? You know, so I think it's just as Clint mentioned before. I mean, you just have to be willing to go do it. I mean, that's the different thing. You got to, you know, my dad used to say, hitch up your drawers and get some.
Right. There's definitely a different mindset in today's. You know, I had a conversation recently with a gentleman about my age, and, you know, we were talking about, you know, one of the big problems now is a lot of companies have a difficult time finding workers. You know, they're getting them all my age or older, because a lot of the younger generation just isn't interested. They want to do other things, and they don't want to get into, you know, how we would traditionally, you know, get a job and sort of work our way up. They don't want to do that anymore. So companies are really trying to be very creative in getting, you know, some new talent. And I think the golf industry has to do that as well. And Clint, what about, you know, more on the lesson side of things? You know, this is a big problem, I think, right now for the golf industry. And, you know, I mean, some can probably argue and say, you know, they're booked all the time, and that's fantastic if they're living in a big center. But you get into some of these rural areas, you know, people are out plowing their field for most of the day, and the last thing they're thinking about is going and taking a golf lesson. So, you know, again, I know we've got to find some creative ways of getting out the golf course, but what can we do from the lesson tee to make it more appealing to get people to want to come out and take lessons and commit some time?
You know, I really, that's a hard question. I mean, we do deal with a technical sport. I mean, there's a certain amount of just boring boilerplate stuff you have to do, and we don't play Zen golf. I mean, you have to actually be there, do the work. You know. Right, and that's one of the things that we do with the R3. I mean, let's do good work. One of the things that we talk about, you know. So the way that we try to get people to is to be smarter. Know what you're going out there for. Instead of spending 45 minutes banging 100 balls, spend 15 minutes working on something you know you need to do better. And here's how you do it. Right, you know, the R3 is the right thing at the right time. You know, everything has a time. And so, therefore, we try to push people, practice and work smarter and do good work. Don't just go out and bang balls, because you're not getting anywhere. That's boring, and you're not improving. So eventually what happens is they've worked their tail off. They've not done it properly. They're not improving, and they give up. So we really just try to encourage people to be smarter. You know, work smarter, not harder. And that's kind of the one thing that we try to do, to not where it's boring, just banging balls. Okay, have a purpose to it. And outside of that, I mean, you know, I just don't see how we can bring it all down to where you got a bunch of fancy bells and whistles going off every time somebody hits a ball in the basket. You know, there's a certain amount of just hard work and things that have to take place to be an accomplished player. Now, with that said, we really make a living off of people that play this game very poorly. You know,
Sure.
if we had to rely
Right.
on the people that played good golf, we'd starve to death. Okay, so we need to make sure that people understand. You know, we don't encourage people to keep score for a while. You know, if don't keep score. Just finish the hole. If you've hit it, we tell people like on a par 4, if you hit it 8 times, pick it up. Walk up, put it on the green, and putt out. Then your next level of achievement would be if you can get to the ball on the green in less than 4 shots, or in less than 8 shots, I should say. Then in less than 6. Where they're not thinking, look, this can be fun. I don't have to keep score. There's a level of improvement that doesn't involve a number at the end of the round. If I can start getting the ball on the green every time in less than double par, I've made an improvement. And go in that direction of where people don't come to the game thinking, gosh, I got to be good at this. I know that's detrimental to our lesson business, but we have to take the approach with our players. We want to get you good enough to where you can enjoy what you're doing, and then we can start working about how big a number you shoot.
Right.
Clint, you raise a very interesting point there because you're right in what you just said, because I think one of the problems in the industry as a whole is we focus so much on par, and a lot of folks out there, I mean, the numbers don't lie. A lot of folks out there are not even close to par. They're lucky if they can break 100 or 90 even.
Yes.
And the problem is that we're trying to get them certainly to improve and to be able to score low, but there's so much pressure. And I like the fact that what you just said about instead of trying to right away focus on somebody to get to the hole on a par 4, under 4, let's work on 8. 8 shots if that's what it takes to get to the green. Because the problem is, I think with a lot of folks out there is it's unattainable. Sometimes the pressure that's put on them, and then their level of frustration goes up. They're trying to break 80, they can't break 80, and they just give up on themselves. They've hit 1,000 balls out there, and they're still not improving. So we have to start making targets that are attainable, and then, like you said, sort of wean them down over time, but not so much so that we're not giving them a reasonable level. Yeah, a reasonable level of attainability. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated, is because they're out there, they're trying to break 80 or even 100 in some cases, and they're focusing on that big number instead of just, as you said, maybe just getting to the green in 8. And then the next time, maybe let's try to get there in 6. And so they're smaller goals, and they're not focusing on, well, I shot a 96 today. I was able to, on that par 4 that normally took me 8 shots, I was able to get there in 6 today. So
that's right.
It's a smaller goal, but it's an attainable goal, and I like that. It's very good. All right, guys, I got the last question here. I want to throw out there, and this goes. I mentioned earlier. We talked about last week about video lessons or instruction has fast become of interest, especially to millennials, because, as Peter, you pointed out, they're always on their phones and whatnot. And this was a question I asked the guys last week, but, again, keeping a time and interest level, how long should videos be in order to keep their interest, and what do you consider too long? Pete, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, most of the analysis I do for them, they're all less than 5 minutes. When they send me a video and I'm talking about the things I want them to do, the initial one might be a little bit longer than that. But, as a matter of fact, one of my players just sent me one just before we got on, and I actually caught him while he was still on the range. So he sent me the video and I sent it back. It was like a 45-second deal. Yep, this is what we're looking at. So they can be very fast. And even with that being said, I have a whole 30-day challenge which covers the whole game, and all the videos total are 32 minutes long. So, I mean, it's very short and precise and right to it. So I don't think they have to be too long, because I think they'll lose interest if they're too long. You have to captivate them and get to the point I'm a lot of times, I'll listen to guys talking about golf instruction, and I'm sitting in the audience going, "Would you get to the point? I mean, come on, let's go." I mean,
right.
But that's the simplicity in me that I want to get it done and get to the point and find out what's going on. So I think from a video standpoint,
Yes.
I don't like them to be very long. I think, when you're really talking about some details and stuff,
Okay.
I'd say, maybe 5 minutes at the longest, but most of mine average between, a minute 45 and 3 minutes when I'm going back over them. So I think they should be very, very
right.
precise, very much detailed to the point, and not very long.
Right. Well said. Clint, what about you? Your thoughts on video? Obviously we're in the video age right now with not only instructors taking video, but also students providing instructors with video on that. If you're putting together a video lesson plan or something like that to that effect to help your students out, obviously that can be a very valuable tool for your students, because a lot of people obviously are visual, and sometimes again, because of time, because of time restraints, maybe if they're not able to get to the course and maybe they've got some questions or concerns about their game, you can shoot them a little video and send it out. What are your thoughts there? Is what's too long, and what do we need to get in that video to get our points across?
Peter said it perfectly. We look at anything that we've done. I've got a few out there. There's probably 4 minutes, but anything over 3 minutes, you've lost them. It's just that simple. I mean, and the people we're dealing with primarily, it's all instant. That's why a lot of you see the millenniums in this age group, unless they can get good at it quick, they quit. It's all about instant gratification. If when I first started using a computer, heck, if it come on in a minute, it was a big deal. Now, if it takes longer than a second, everybody's upset.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
It has to be very precise to the point. I think people will agree with this. It has to be right to the point, very short and sweet, and then you go to the next subject.
Yep.
It has to be very segmented. And if you want to give a whole lesson in 30 minutes, I mean, they're not gonna click on that one.
No.
Yeah. So Pete said it perfectly.
Yeah, that's true. When you look at a lot of the videos that have been put up on YouTube and some of the other platforms out there, and of course they're all pretty much time stamped, and you start seeing videos that are 12 and 13 minutes long, and it's an instructional video. Even as somebody in the business, I look at that and I say, I don't even want to watch that, because I know that this person's going on and on and on, or they're trying to get too much information in there, and right. People want. I talked to a gentleman recently, just to give you an idea, a young gentleman, and he said that, what he likes to do is he likes to research, what it is he's interested in learning. He'll go online to various, top sites, and then what he'll do is he'll take that information, he'll go somewhere to his local course or what have you, or driving range, and he'll work on some of those things. But one of the things that he has said was just like what we're talking about right now, and that is, if somebody's got a video that's much longer than 5 minutes, he's not interested in that. Because he doesn't have time to sit and watch that, because it's not going to hold his interest.
Too much rambling.
Yep. Right. There's too much rambling. And it's well intended. I understand that, and I mean no disrespect to any fellow pros out there. But the truth of the matter is, we're in an age of technology and instant gratification. And if people are not getting that information in a fast, and all businesses are like that. So the golf industry can't be different. But we have to be able to get access to that information. Even when I'm looking for something, I'll get on Google. Because I'm not going to sit there. I mean, we don't open up the books anymore. We go on Google or some other search engine. And, if you want to learn how to do something in that, I'm not going to take a course. I'm going to get on the internet and I'm going to search it out, and I'm going to try and find the best. And if it takes me longer than a little bit, then I say, well, that's not that important anyways, unless the house is burning down.
Oh, well, I'll do it.
You know what I mean? So again, I think, the overall thing that really I wanted to get through with tonight's discussion, and I think we've done a good job with it, is really that the industry has to take a hard look at itself and say, what can we do better? I mean, we can come out with all the great programs out there, and there are a ton of programs out there available through all levels of golf. But the truth of the matter is, what are we doing to catch the consumer's interest? So we have to be better salesmen, I think, in doing that. You can spend all the money you want in advertising and having a great website, but if there's nothing on that website that's catching their interest other than some great pictures and some photos of the golf course, people are not going to, they're passed on by. So the golf courses have to be very creative and innovative, I think, in order to get people out there. But once they're there, then I think it's up to the golf professional to say, we need to have some kind of event or events going on here on a fairly consistent and regular basis. And sometimes it has to be trial and error. Sometimes you might just have to try something and say, hey, it may work, it may not work. And if it's successful, then you go with it. But if it's not, well, then, okay, you try something else. But to just advertise, cheap rates or golf lessons, Clint and Pete, as you guys pointed out earlier, people are just not coming out. And I think this is why golf courses are closing up, is because people, unless you're, with the exception of your hardcore golfers, they're just not getting interest. It's not interesting to them. It's not fun. So we have to make it not just about golf and golf lessons. We have to make it about something else and just let the other sort of flow as a result of it. So great discussion tonight, guys. Thank you. I
you bet.
Managed to get some more information from you guys, as I knew I would, and always gives me some pause to think. Great job, as always. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here. We got a few minutes left before you sign off. I know you guys got things to do and you want to unwind from the day.
Yeah,
but Clint, what's new and exciting happening out your way?
Well,
what are you working on? Anything special?
Well, we're working on a few things, do some group lessons here and there, but primarily just trying to get our hands around some of the things we've talked about tonight. How do we attract the 35 and under to get them back out? One of the things we do not have a private club in our county. 5 golf courses, all of them open to the public. And so, it's a little different market. We're growing. We're trying to take advantage of some of the industrial growth here as well by introducing golf to the corporate level. But our thing is that we've never, and since I've been in the golf field, we've really never had to do what we're talking about. It's a hard pill to swallow to think golf becomes a secondary item at your facility. So we've just got to be realistic and move forward, and we're going to try a few of those things. I've learned a couple of things here tonight as well. We're going to give that concert or the car show. I think that's a heck of an idea. Let's do a car show. Try to get some interest going other than golf, and hey, let's go play a hole or two. Maybe you'll like it.
Yep.
A little bit, almost exactly. a little bit of a bait and switch. Yep. We're gonna bait them out there, but that's fine.
You can have a great fun. You can have a fun couples event that doesn't necessarily have to be revolving around golf initially. It can be some other event, and then you could just maybe, like you say, have a 3-hole scramble, or something like that, just to make it fun and interesting. But it gets them out there, and again, it gives another revenue stream for the golf courses, and they're not always having to give away the lessons, or always having to give away their green fees in order to make revenue. So being creative is one way. Very quickly, Clint, for those that want to reach out to you and
I've got to go. ClintGolf001 at yahoo.com, or they can go on the club at brookstone.com. Either one of those, and I'll be more than happy to respond to them. And Ted, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, have a good night, Clint. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Pete. All right, bye-bye.
All right, Pete, anything new and exciting your way that you want to share with the listeners, and then you can wrap up by letting the folks know how they can reach out.
What we're doing, we're starting to look at, and we're using TrackMan because they can help us to just get the data for each swing. But I'm really starting to look at different swing types, and based in the numbers, if we make changes, what what changes create what differences. And so we're just kind of trying to look at swings and picking them apart and say, if we've got this type of swing and we do this, what happens? And if we do this, what happens? So just kind of experimenting around with golf swings. I mean, it's always been a fun thing for me to do. I've always tinkered with mine. As I've always said, my golf swing's a work in progress. And so, we're always trying to find out the simplest way to do it. But I'm also doing a lot of investigating, just on what we were talking about tonight. I mean, I just talked to a facility that the driving force behind the facility is their banquet center. The banquet center makes more money than the golf course and the restaurant with all the weddings, anniversaries. I mean, so there's a whole other avenue. So I'm kind of using that from not only a facility standpoint, but a golf instructional standpoint, just reaching out to different instructors and trying to find out, what are they doing, what things are successful, and how can we continue as a group to move this game forward, because, it's really, as you said, it's really going sideways. But, hey, they can reach me at plainsimplegolf.com. That's PLANE. This is plainsimplegolf.com. All my contact info is out there and some other information. That's just the easiest way to get a hold of me. So, but I really appreciate it, Ted. It's always great being on. And as I've said before, it's a great thing that you're doing. So we're really thrilled that you have this platform and allow us to come in and do this.
Well, Pete, as always, again, I thank you for joining me on Coach's Corner, and you and Clint and all of the other many great coaches do a fantastic job each week, and I obviously get a great amount of enjoyment. And, the real purpose of it is not just to educate the consumers out there, but it's also for us as golf professionals to help maybe exchange some ideas, and hopefully we've done a few of them here tonight. But, that's another great way, and being able to sort of come together and saying, hey, you know what, we want to help one another and continue to grow this business, and here's some ways that maybe have been successful for me or what have you. So, Pete, as always, thank you, and keep up the great work, and I look forward to having you join me the next time on the Coach's Corner panel. Have a great weekend, and happy 4th of July.
All right, you too, Ted. Yeah, same.
All
Thanks a lot.
All right, good night. All right, that was another great golf professional here in the Coach's Corner panel, Pete Buchanan. A special thank you again to both Clint and Pete for joining me here on the Coach's Corner panel. Always do a fantastic job, as do all of the great coaches that are here. And we have a lot of fun, and every once in a while we even have a few laughs. So it's always a pleasure having these guys join me. And let me just, before I bring on my special guest this evening, let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And, of course, the best way to find us is go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or just simply type Golf Talk Live up in the search key, and that will take you there. And we're always front and center during the live broadcast. But for some reason, if you're not able to join us live, not to worry. Just scroll down the page a little bit, and you'll come across the on-demand section. And you can visit that link anytime when it's convenient for you, of course, from anywhere around the globe. And you can listen to the show in its recorded version. Always some great information and some interesting guests that I have gotten to interview here over the last 5 or 6 years. And so there's a lot of great archive section in there to choose from. So make sure you go back and listen to some of the shows. Maybe you've listened to them already. Never hurts to go back and listen again, especially the Coach's Corner panel. Some great discussions over the past several years. And also some other great social media platforms that you can tune into the show. Go to iTunes.com, Stitcher.com, and, of course, TuneIn.com. And, again, just type in Golf Talk Live, and that will take you there as well. So also some great ways to get updates on the show. Of course, every week I update on a number of Facebook pages. My personal page, which of course is Ted Odorico, and it's Odorico is the correct spelling. You can follow me there. Also on the Golf Talk Live blog page there on Facebook as well. There's a Coach's Corner, page. And also a company page there as well that you can follow. Also on other platforms, social media platforms, LinkedIn.com under my personal name again. I post every week there who's going to be on the show, on the panel discussion, who my special guest is going to be. So you can also find it through LinkedIn. And also Twitter. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO, and CEO is in capital letters. And as always, thank you for some of the recent followers on Twitter as well. All right, let me tell you about my special guest tonight. He's a fellow Canadian. So I'm very excited for a number of reasons to have him on the show. He's a 25-plus year professional golf instructor, and he was a member of the PGA of Canada from 1996 to 2017. And he also is the author and creator of Center of Gravity Golf, Get Your Swing in Gear instructional book and video series. Great golf professional. I had the opportunity to talk with him the other evening on the phone and just had some very interesting stories to share. So we're going to talk to him about Center of Gravity Golf, but we're going to talk just a little bit about his background here. So let me welcome my very special guest this evening, Rob Bernard.
Hey, Ted, how are you? Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate this opportunity.
I appreciate it. So, Rob, I thought what we would do before we get into Center of Gravity Golf, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to give the folks, I like to do this, especially with a new guest that's never been on the show, is give them an opportunity just to tell a little bit about their story, their journey, how they got into golf, and that sort of thing. So, first and foremost, as you told me the other night, you were actually born and raised in PEI, which is an island out on the east coast of Canada. And we'll talk about your journey across Canada a little bit as well. But how did you get into golf? What started you?
Well, that's a funny story, Ted, because I never played golf as a junior, and I was a hockey player. As a young man coming up, and after my hockey career was over, in my first year of university, I took the first year of University of Prince Edward Island, and I had nothing to do, so I joined the local golf club at Belvedere Golf Club in Charlottetown, a private club there. Joined the golf club, and the first year I was there, I think I played 100 rounds of golf, fell in love with the game, and that's where it all started, actually.
So, I mean, and that's interesting because, you know, a lot of, like for myself, I started very, very young. I was a little earlier than 7 years old when my father took me out. So I was, very, very young, but you came up a little bit later in life, but obviously still got bitten by the bug and sort of, as they say, the rest is history. But so once you kind of got bitten by the bug and you enjoyed playing, there had to become a sort of conversation or dialogue with yourself where you said, okay, hey, you know what? I want to be able to teach others. So what prompted you to move to that end of the golf industry?
Well, that's great, Ted. You know, I've always enjoyed teaching, and what happened was I moved from Prince Edward Island to Ottawa, Ontario, in the mid '80s, and I was playing golf with a few friends of mine, and I was kind of showing them a few shots, and one of my friends actually said to me, he said, "You missed your calling, Rob. You should be a golf instructor." And I took that to heart, you know. And a few years later, I relocated to Lethbridge, Alberta, and lo and behold, that's where the college was, the PGM college. So I went down and enrolled in the PGM college, and for my first crack at the PGA, and that was it. It was 1994, I believe, when that happened. And I went through the 3 years of the PGM course, and then that's where it all started. So very, very, very fortunate to stumble into that situation at that time.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, a lot of we look at a lot of the tour players, Nat, and some of them, you know, after their careers are sort of finished, some of them will transition to teaching or go into other businesses and that. But you know, you weren't somebody that went out on tour first or necessarily played in a lot of mini tours and then decided, well, I'm going to teach instead. You were actually doing other things, and at some point along the way, you decided an opportunity present itself that hey, I want to get out there and I want to help some others learn this great game that you obviously fell in love with, that you were playing, and obviously, as I said, the rest is history. Now, you also shared the story, and maybe you can tell the folks a little bit about how this came about, and this will sort of lead into our discussion about Center of Gravity Golf. But you worked for a cruise line or on a cruise line for a little while. Tell us a little bit about the story, how that came about, and what you were doing there.
You know, that's getting toward the end of the story. It's a tremendous story, actually. It was after I finished my 3 years at the college. I got my first professional job up in Sparwood, BC, and I was invited back to teach at the program in Lethbridge. So I taught the program in Lethbridge for a couple of years and developed some curriculum for the third-year program. Then got an opportunity to move back to Prince Edward Island and became the head pro at the first club that I joined there at Belvedere Golf Club. So I had the opportunity to be the head pro at Belvedere for 5 years. So while I was at Belvedere, I had an opportunity. I got a call from a gentleman in Florida from a company called Elite Golf Cruises out of Fort Lauderdale, asking if I would be interested in taking a job on a cruise ship. Well, I thought, gee, that might be a neat idea. I wonder how it works. So we talked a little bit, and he said, oh, you go for 6 months at a time. And I said, well, I don't know if my partner at the time would like that. We just bought a house. We just did this and that. He said, oh, no, take her with you. Take her with you, and you can travel together. Well, I still didn't realize how good it was going to be. So I said, listen, let me go on a week cruise and see what it's all like. So they sent me down to New York, and they put me on a ship, and we went down to down the Caribbean for a week and came back. When I came back home to see Joanne, I said, you know what? I said, I think this would be a great opportunity for us, Joe, and I think we should take the plunge. So we really did take the plunge. We sold our house, sold the car, sold everything we had, and we jumped on a ship in Dover, England. Was our first run, running up through the Netherlands, right up to St. Petersburg, Russia, and back. And we had just a tremendous run up there. And then, of course, it started from there. But the opportunity that was given to us on board those cruise ships was absolutely tremendous. And I know that some guys think that it's kind of a cushy job, but I'll tell you, it's an opportunity of a lifetime if you want to take advantage of it. It really is. I think we said 50 countries, I believe, and so just saw the world. Our first year, actually, Ted, we stayed on for an entire year. We did up to Russia, then we did the crossing from Cork in Ireland. We did the Titanic crossing back into New York, and from there we decided we were going to stay on and go down into the Caribbean. So we went down to the Caribbean and stayed down there for 6 months. We were on for an entire year the first time. We had so much fun. We took a few months off, and then we were back at it the next year. It was just an opportunity that was beyond our belief, so we took full advantage of it.
Well, and what's interesting, Rob, about that is obviously, unlike traditional golf, you had a very captive audience. I mean, you've got a cruise ship there of depending on various size, it could be several thousand passengers, and obviously you're not necessarily going to be teaching to all of them, but as you're sailing to whatever destination, there's a very and this was something we talked about earlier on the Coach's Corner panel tonight, was really some of the things that the golf industry really needs to do in order to keep up with the times. I mean, as you know, we've got the millennials out there and Generation X and all this coming up, and it's very difficult sometimes to get them to come out to the golf course because they just don't see it as something for them. We're competing with so many not only other sports but other social media and things like that. So here you've got an opportunity on a cruise ship to really have a captive audience, So you have to be very creative in order to entice them to come and do it. So what were some of the things that you did or saw when you were first getting on the cruise ship to help get people interested, fired up, and to come and take lessons, or to maybe do a clinic with you on board?
Well, I'll tell you, Ted, that's a funny story, because when we first got to England, we were on a celebrity ship, and I had a beautiful pro shop with a golf simulator. That was my teaching, was the golf simulator, and I had a pro shop where I could sell equipment and whatnot. We had Nike equipment on board for sale. So when I got on board the ship and got up and we got sailing, I realized very quickly that my simulator was broken. And sailing in the North Sea, very difficult to get parts from the U.S. So I was out there 6 months with no moneymaker. So the first thing I said to Joanne, I said, well, I think we better call the cruise director and say we better put on a seminar, try to get some people in here, because I want to sell some golf, right? So when we stopped at the ports, I would take anybody who wanted to come golfing on a tour, come golfing with us. So in order to do that, what I said, okay, let's get the cruise director and say, let's put on a seminar. So the first thing we put on the seminar, I had 15 chairs inside of my room. That's all I had room for. So we filled the 15 chairs, and I started talking about how I felt that would be the best way to get this across to a whole number of people from all different nationalities around the world. People who couldn't speak the language, it was incredible. The first day, I think we had 16 or 17 in the room, a couple of people standing. And then the next day, I said, I'm going to follow this up tomorrow with more on this. The next day, we had 45 people. There was 15 inside the room and 30-some standing outside. And so the cruise director came by and said, wow, we better do something about this. So By the fourth day on board the ship, we were in a 150-seat theater, and I filled that theater 3 days a week, just while I was developing my pitch on what I was doing. And what it did for me was it really what I was doing it for was to sell golf tours. I didn't have any book written. I didn't have any videos done. This was all brand new to me. So one day after one of the shows, a gentleman came up and he said, "Where can I buy your video?" I said, "I haven't got a video." He said, "Well, you better make one because I could sell 15 of them right here today." So I said, "Okay." So and then we started thinking about, okay, I got to put this show together. So what I did, I started to put the show together. I started to make it a little bit more professional. I got some, I did some slides. I did some audio and some visual effects, and I started to build a show. So by the time we got down to the Caribbean, and I was on a big princess ship then, like you said, 5,000 people every week, and I developed three shows, 3 1-hour presentations on board the ship that would not only was designed to sell golf tours. But during that time, I had filmed a video, fairly crude one. The first one was fairly crude. Filmed it inside the Princess Theater, an 800-seat theater, and there was me and 3 cameramen in the theater during a lunch hour or during a tour stop. So I was talking to nobody in an 800-seat theater for 3 hours. So we had a fun time doing that. I sold those videos, and lo and behold, next year I decided, well, I better write my book. So I took some time down and wrote the book, and the book is only 150 pages long. It's very concise, and what we did then is once we got on to Princess, we were doing 350 people a day, 3 days a week for 5 years in that theater, and we just had so much fun doing it. After I got the new book written, we rebranded, made everything nice and pretty. And when I got back on land, of course, I reshot the videos in high definition, and now we've got a tremendous product that's available online. So the story about how this thing was developed would be way too long for this show, but I'll tell you, it was quite a ride. It took me about 7 years to get the thing completely where I wanted it, but the proof was in the pudding. When I got on stage and started talking about this program, people just signed up for golf and bought the program, and it was just a tremendous experience.
Let me ask you before we get into talking about your program a little bit.
Sure.
What you just said raises a very interesting question. As I mentioned a moment ago, the previous hour segment, I have a Coach's Corner panel where other fellow golf professionals come on, and we talk about different things going on in the industry and that. And really, one of the problems that I think that the industry has had for a long time is sort of a traditional mindset where, we come into the golf course in the morning, we open the doors, and people come to play golf, but they're not really doing anything very creative in order to really entice people. It's either, cheaper golf, discounted rounds, or, block lessons at a cheaper rate in order to try and generate revenue, but they're not really doing anything creative. What do you think the industry, in your opinion, based on what you've learned building this particular program that you've got, and we'll talk about that in a moment, what do you think the industry needs to do in order to really grow this game?
Well, Ted, that's the hot question right now. And I'm involved in a few golf forums, and we thousands of golf professionals. We talk about this all the time. And what I think, and you're absolutely right. Used to be just open the doors and people would come. Back in the days of the Earl Palmer and Jack Nicklaus days when golf was good. And then all of a sudden Tiger Woods came along and everything boomed. And I believe that it seemed to me like that people just stopped trying. They're just kind of just waiting for the people to come to the golf course. And these days it's not happening like that anymore. And I truly believe it's because of the personal contact. In the age of the internet and everything's on your phone, everybody's looking at a screen, and nobody's really connecting one-on-one as much as we used to as people. And I think that's what the success of my program was that I got to get on stage and connect with 300 people, in an hour, and it just makes all the difference in the world. And I think in order to make a big change in the game, I think we need more personal connection, and I think we need to really go out and recruit. I don't think we can afford to wait for people to come anymore. I think we have to go and get them. And I think the way we go and get them is that we put on some events and start to connect with some people and show them how really easy it is to be able to learn to play the game to a point where you can enjoy yourself and not be frustrated and continue to improve at your own pace. Most of what I see online and most of what I hear is geared toward the tour player and geared toward the low handicap or the plus handicap player. And really, like 95 to 98% of us out here really just want to go out there and have some fun. Golf is a tremendous, the debate whether it's a sport or a game. It used to be a sport for me, now it's more of a game. I play golf for much different reasons today than I did when I was 30, so
right.
So I believe it's more of a game, and I believe you get out there and enjoy yourself and enjoy the outside, get away from your phone for a few hours, get in touch with some of your friends, get to talking and learn to enjoy the game and play the game. And I think that's what's going to bring it back. And I think it's the personal one-on-one, the personal touch. I believe that's what's going to happen. That has to happen.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, social media and technology advancements have certainly helped the game, serve the game in many positive ways. But it has also, I believe, have hurt the game. Yeah, it has hurt the game as well, because there's a lot of coaches and a lot of teaching pros out there that I think rely too heavily on the technology to drive their business, and there's not that personal touch. And that's becoming in every business, not just the golf industry, but the golf industry has sort of a double whammy, if you will, because technology has been really driving the industry for the last several years, but also golf can be, for some, can be difficult and tough because they're trying to learn something that obviously you have to put a little. It's not like kicking a soccer ball or hitting a tennis ball. There's a little bit more involved in it in understanding the fundamentals. And I think what has happened, Rob, in the industry is it's become so numbers or statistic driven that people just get confused and just drop out of the game because they just can't understand what's going on, and they're not improving and they're not seeing results. So brings me to your program, Center of Gravity Golf. The reason why, obviously, when I first came across your profile and I saw this, it intrigued me because, there's a lot of great methods out there and we always hear about this. But yours is really a very simple and basic common sense approach. So just give me a very quick, and then we'll get into more of the meat potatoes, but give me a very sort of broad overview of what Center of Gravity Golf is.
Yeah, absolutely, Ted. The first thing I want to touch on is what you talked about, technology. There's a lot of great technology out there. If these TrackMan flight scopes and everything that they have, and all the biomechanics and things that the guys are studying, and there's some really, really smart golf pros out there, but a lot smarter than me, obviously. They and this technology, I don't understand. I've been in the game for 25 years, and a lot of that stuff just I don't understand it, and it wouldn't help me. I don't believe. So I don't really believe it would help the client that I'm looking for either. I'm not discounting the technology. There certainly is a place for it, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there who really enjoy the technology and enjoy those numbers. But what I'm finding is that the 95% of the clientele that we're looking for want the simplicity, and it's the simplicity that helps them improve very quickly and enjoy the game and a lot more smiles on their face quickly. So we're talking about Center of Gravity Golf. Well, Center of Gravity Golf was really born out of necessity because I really did believe, and I still do believe, that the golf swing is tremendously overanalyzed, overthought, and overtaught. And I think the simplistic approach, not only the simplistic approach, Ted, but a consistent approach to the message. And that's what I believe is missing in the golf industry, is a consistent message for instruction. And I'm not going to discount anybody's methods or anybody's philosophies, but if you open a golf magazine and you have a chipping tip on page 25 that says this, and you have a chipping tip from another pro on page 27 that says something different, that creates doubt in the minds of a golfer. So what I stress with my instructors is that the message is always the same. It's a very consistent message from instructor to instructor. So if somebody who's working with me wants to go and see my man Doug, and I know that Doug's not going to confuse the client, he's going to say exactly the same thing that I'm saying. So I think that kind of approach, a unified system, something that people can sink their teeth into and believe in, and also something that has a distinct beginning, middle, and end. I really don't believe there should be endless golf lessons. Our program is 6 hours long. After 6 hours, we're not going to teach. We have nothing else to teach you. After 6 hours, now you become maybe get into a coaching package and start to solidify what you've learned already instead of trying to throw extra stuff in. So the simplicity of the program and the way it's broken down and the consistency of the message, I believe, is the meat and potatoes of what I believe the golf industry needs, number one, and exactly what center of gravity golf delivers. Does that answer your question?
And something, yeah, you answered it. That was perfect. So Rob, something I want to ask you about, there's two parts to this, really. The first part is obviously what you've done through the program is to really emphasize the proper sequence of a three-piece golf swing. That's number one that I want to ask you about. But also what intrigued me as well is that the COGG, we'll call it for short, program has really reduced the entire story of your golf swing down to basically 6 words to help the folks understand.
Right.
So we're going to break those down. We're going to break those down in a moment. But again, talk about the three-piece golf swing. Explain for those that maybe are new to golf that don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay, guys, thanks, Jay. Well, the first thing I want to talk about, and the first thing we do, is we set the fundamentals. Because without the fundamentals, it doesn't matter how pretty your swing is or how much your clubs cost, you're not going to be able to enjoy yourself on the golf course. So the first thing we talk about, Ted, is the fundamentals, which I call fingers, feet, and face, the 3 F's. And once we understand how to create what I call the center of gravity triangle, which is where this entire program was born, once we understand how to create that and sustain that triangle, which takes about an hour, and our experience with it is within the first hour, once they understand how to stay still and how to control what we control their center of gravity, they'll be able to get the ball in the air very consistently, and that's the start of it. Once we get the program, once we get their fundamentals done, then we move into the three-piece golf swing. And I call it a three-piece golf swing in a sequence, and I call it the push, the engine, and the piston. So what I'm trying to do is just try to paint a picture to the client that how to get the club away from your body. Now, we always say take away. We always say, all the pros, and I used to say it myself, you have to take away, take the club away. But the word take implies a pull with the right hand, or a pull with your trail side hand or your dominant hand to take something from somebody.
Right.
So I change the terminology from take to push. And what I do is you push the handle of the club in a straight line away from your body, and then let it follow to the top of your swing naturally. That will find your natural swing plane. So therefore, none of my coaches, none of my instructors ever try to set you into a position that they think you should be. Like this is like what Rory McIlroy does, or this is how Dustin Johnson does it. What we want to do, I want you to do it the way you do it. And if you push that golf club with your boss fingers, I call them the boss fingers, to the back, in a straight line to the top of your swing, it will hit your swing plane 100% of the time. And that way, you don't have to worry about worry about where the top of your swing is. It's always going to hit your spot, and you're going to be comfortable doing it. So that takes away a lot of pressure from where you want to be at the top of your swing, or are you on plane, or how do I get there? It all happens very, very quickly and very automatically if they push that golf club with their boss in a straight line away from the golf club to the top of their swing. When they push the club to the top of the swing, it also does another thing. It turns their engine on, what I call turn their engine on, which turns their body away from the golf club, away from the golf ball, and turns what I call their belt buckle to the trail side of the ball, which gives them an opportunity to turn back, which is the engine part of the golf swing. Now, the engine part of the golf swing is just turning your body back to the target, turn your belt buckle back to the target, and allowing the golf club to follow you. And the piston is what I call the release. That's what I call the release, is the piston. So what I equate it to is if anybody ever driven a car, you know that the engine turns over before the piston fires. So when the engine turns over, then the piston fires, and the piston is the explosion that gets the car off the line or gets the golf ball off the club face and flying straight and far. It's a very very simple, very unique, and very rememberable, and easy to implement and easy to remember. It happens tremendously quickly. so they understand what it feels like to swing the golf club in sync, right? So that's basically that takes about an hour. So the first hour we work on the fundamentals, second hour we work on what's called the three-piece golf swing to push the engine and the piston. And after those 2 hours are over, we really have nothing else to teach you about the golf swing, except in the third hour, then we teach you the geometry of setting up the driver and setting up the fairway wood. So every swing basically is the same. You only have to learn one thing, one swing, and then we teach them how to set up the geometry for the driver and the fairway wood. So the 3-hour full swing program becomes tremendously simple, and the effectiveness of it is beyond our belief at the moment. So we're very happy with the results of it.
What's very interesting, and thank you for that, Rob. What's very interesting about what you've just relayed to the audience is that you specifically are looking to create their swing. In other words, you're not trying to manipulate your students into swinging like Nick Faldo, let's say, or Ernie Els or Freddie Couples or somebody else. What you're doing is giving them the core presentation to help them understand how their body works. But again, it's their body, because everybody, as you know, Rob, everybody's uniquely different. I happen to be a tall, I'm a tall person. I'm 6'4" and very long in the legs. What might work for me may not necessarily work for you or another player. And one of the problems that the industry has had for a long time here in recent times is, and again, I'm like you, I'm not knocking any one method. It may work for some golfers, but the industry has tried to sort of pigeonhole everybody into one method or another. In other words, swing like this, or you've got to be over this way in order to have your A game. And the problem with that is not everybody fits into that mold. So what you've tried to do is you found a very creative way to explain basically how the golf swing works in a relatable, and what's very, and I want to point this out for the audience tuning in tonight, what's very interesting is the way you've laid it out. There's a lot of visual cues that people can pick up from the words that you're using that they can relate to. And that's very important, because there's a lot of people, myself included, that are visual learners. So even though they're not necessarily seeing something on a video or necessarily what you're showing them, but the words that you're using is giving them a visual of what you're just talking about. So they can use that when they go away from you or out in the golf course by themselves. They've got those visual cues based on the words that you're describing, correct?
That's absolutely correct, and that's exactly the way I designed it. And you're absolutely right about everybody's different. I tell everybody we're exactly the same, only totally different. We have 2 arms, 2 legs. Right. Everything works the same, but we have physical limitations. Since I'm a little bit older now, my body doesn't work like it did when it was 30. But if you understand that your body will do what your body wants to do, and it will repeat that. And that's the important thing. It will repeat that. If you're not physically trying to place the golf club in a specific position, if you're not physically trying to do something that your body doesn't like to do or hurts to do, then you'll never repeat that on a golf course. So it doesn't matter, like I said, and it works for all people, all sizes, all tall, short, big, small. It really doesn't matter. Man, woman, it really doesn't matter, because what we're doing is we're showing you what your body can do, for you by allowing you to swing the golf club with your body, and not trying to make you into somebody else. And I believe that's what most of our clients are all of our clients are very pleased about, is that I'm not trying to change their golf swing. I'm trying to build their golf swing and show them how to build their golf swing. Now, the sequence, like you said, the push the engine, the piston, that was to paint the picture for them. That's exactly right. And once they understand, okay, this is the sequence, the engine has to turn before the piston fires. That means you have to get your body around before you release the golf club. That really paints the picture for them. And it's amazing, Ted. I wish I could see you on the range. It's amazing how quickly this happens for people. It's sometimes within 3 or 4 minutes they've hit shots they've never hit before in their lives, simply because they understand the stability of it and they understand the sequence and how the sequence works. After that's done, all we do from then on in is we just keep drilling the same things. We don't add anything or take anything away. It's we understand exactly what each miss is, and that's another thing about the program, Ted, that I'd like to tell you, that everything we tell them, everything we show them, we explain why or what happens when this happens. So if they hit a thin shot, they'll know why. If they hit a fat shot, they know exactly what happened. So they can start self-correcting it, and they don't need to run back to the pro all the time for extra lessons. Now, a lot of pros tell me, well, geez, you don't want that. You want them coming back to you, don't you? And I say, no, not really. I want them coming back to me for a little tune-up now and again. I want them coming back to me with a whole bunch of their friends. That's what I want. I want them out playing golf, spending their money on the golf course, rather than trying to spend money for 15 years taking golf lessons. And that's been my philosophy from the first. And it worked out tremendously well for us over the last 8 or 10 years.
You're exactly right, and that was something else that we talked a little bit earlier tonight on the panel discussion, was the fact that, you know, people need to be able to see results. And this is another reason why the numbers, I mean, there's obviously other factors involved as well, time and cost, but one of the reasons there has been a decline, particularly here in the United States, with some of our golfers, is out of frustration. You know, they've taken lessons for years. You know, they've worked with some great professionals, but they're not. I mean, they're not getting a lot of improvement. And I think from listening to you, what I'm hearing is, as much as you want to be able to work with people, you don't want to get in a situation where they're sort of caught in a like a hamster going around in a wheel and never getting anywhere, not seeing any results, just doing the same thing over and over and again, but not getting any results. So what you've done is you've created a system to allow them to have something that's repeatable, but that's going to give them success over time, obviously depending on what time they want to invest. But ultimately, you're not trying to constantly make changes. You're giving them the core fundamentals that they can work with, and depending on how much time they want to invest in working on some of these things is what's going to give them ultimately the key results. Correct?
You're absolutely correct. And you're talking about time and cost there a little bit earlier, and the time where we get a beginner on the lesson tee to when they're actually capable or comfortable enough to go out on the golf course with their friends takes about 6 hours. You know, then they have knowledge on every little part of the game that they need to have knowledge on, and they will be able to get themselves around the golf course and have some fun at it. I always tell them, the better you get at fingers, feet, face, the better you get, because that's your stability. So we work a lot on the fundamentals. And it was funny, I watched a Golf Talk Live with Kelly Tillman and Arnold Palmer a few years ago, and Arnold and Kelly was asking him. She said to him, "Now for a beginner golfer, what would you think, Arnold? What should they be working on?" And Arnold said, "Well, if I was a beginner golfer and I needed to get better, what I'd work on is my fundamentals. I would make sure my fundamentals are very solid." And then she asked him about a mid-handicapper. What about a mid-handicapper? What would they be working on? He said, "Well, if I was a mid-handicapper, the best thing I'd be working on in order to become better would be my fundamentals. If my fundamentals get better, I get better all the time." And then she said, "Well, as a pro, what do you work on as a pro when you're on the driving range?" And Arnold Palmer said to her, "Well, Kelly, on the driving range, I work on my fundamentals, because if my fundamentals are good, I know my game is going to be good." So that's what we tracked, and we broke the fundamentals down into 3 things: fingers, feet, face. This creates this triangle, the center of gravity triangle. And the better the people get at that, and once they understand that, just the better they get. Now, our practice schedules, I only have to hit 60 balls in a practice schedule to get this through, and it's amazing to see how quickly this happens. And within 3 or 4 swings, they'll hit shots they've never hit before once they understand how those fundamentals work. Then when we get them into the full swing, we get them into the sequence, then they've hit shots like they've never hit before. Well, long and straight, and get some spin on them, and be able to play the game. And that's what most people want, Ted. They want to be able to play the game and have fun with their friends. And if I can get you from 120 to 85, in one short season or less than a season, then I've done my job. And then your job as my client is to go and tell all your friends what kind of a job we did, so we get all their friends. So our entire philosophy is get more people playing golf and get them playing golf as quickly as we can, and get them having fun as quickly as we can. Because once they're having fun, then the industry's going to change.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's a great philosophy, Rob, to have, and a great attitude to have as well. You're exactly right, because one of the biggest complaints that I hear from a lot of golfers, various ages, is that the game is being made too difficult. With all this technology that we've got and all the advancements, the game has actually gotten harder for most people to learn, because now they're not only thinking about, getting their arm in this position or shifting their weight this way. Now they're thinking about all their stats. And what we've actually done is they've got information overload. And they're going away and they get out in the golf course and they wonder why, when they get over the ball and they're getting ready to hit their shot, they've got so many thoughts going through their head that they're standing there for like a minute and a half and they haven't even hit the ball yet, because they're thinking too much.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
That's the conscious and competent stage, and that's where most golfers are right now, is in the conscious and competent stage of learning, where they're conscious of what they're doing, and they're so conscious of it that they're incompetent in making it work. So you move them from that into the conscious competent stage, which we do immediately, where they're conscious of their fundamentals at first. I got to know the finger, straight face, and once I get that, so once they get in the conscious competent stage, and it's very simple, because there's only, like you said, we broke it down, there's only 6 things, 6 words is what it is. So once they're in that conscious competent stage, then they start to play golf. They start to play some good golf, and from there, the more they work on their fundamentals, they get into the unconscious competent stage, which is where we all want to be. We just go out and all we're thinking about is our target, and we're not worried about the golf swing, and we're not worried about anything else. That's where professionals are, and that's where low handicappers are, and that's where we need to take the 100 shooter and the 90 shooter and the 85 shooter, is to bring them into that unconscious competent stage where they can actually go out and play the game now. They talk about teaching golf. They say, "Do you teach golf?" Well, teaching the game, playing the game is much different than teaching the golf swing or teaching the skill set to play the game. And what we really focus on is the skill set to play the game. Once you have the skill set down, then we can teach you how to go out and attack a golf course and really have some fun. And that's, but I think the first stage of it, the first step, has to be learning the skill set in order for you to be able to get yourself around the golf course and play the game the way that it was intended to be played. Not hitting your driver on every par 4, not doing all this, but understanding how to get around the golf course and have some fun. And that's what we focus on. We focus on the skill set to be able to take them to the next stage, which is learning to play the game.
Right, exactly. And let me just add very quickly, since you mentioned, Arnold Arnold and Jack and some of the others, Jack Nicklaus, if you remember Jack's video Golf My Way, one of the things that he talked about in there, they had it, we're shooting a video of a portion of him out on a driving range, and he said one of the things that he does and obviously I'm talking about a little earlier time. I mean, now the season goes on, pretty much from January to December, but back in his earlier times, I mean, they had a break at the end of the year, so he would take time off and do other things. But what he said is at the beginning of the year, before he got out playing on the golf course for any tournaments, is he worked the same as Arnold. He worked on his fundamentals. That's what he worked on every year to sort of get the cobwebs out, if you will, for a new season. What he worked on the fundamentals, and that's all he worked on. He didn't make any swing changes or anything like that. He worked on the core fundamentals. In fact, I had a gentleman that was on the show a while back, and I can't think of his name offhand, but he talked about Jack Nicklaus, that actually one time in his life tried to make a drastic change. He tried to draw the ball, so he took some lessons from somebody else besides Jack Grout, and it ended up throwing his game off so bad that he went back to his old way and started winning tournaments again. So, he played with his game, but he focused on the fundamentals. He didn't try to change anything. And this is where I think a lot of golfers fall into that trap, is they try to make too many changes, and then they get frustrated because now they're not really dealing with their swing anymore. They're dealing with something else that's sort of been manufactured for them, and that's where they run into a lot of problems.
They're trying to deal with somebody else's swing. They're trying to make somebody else's swing happen when really all they need to do is learn their own body and how it swings, right?
Right, exactly. So, Rob, let me ask you, so we talked a little bit about your full swing seminar, but you also have two other components. You've got the finesse game and obviously the short game. Talk a little bit about each of those components, and then we'll go from there. So talk about the finesse game. What goes on in that seminar?
Well, that is the most fun, and I find that the short game, the finesse game, and the short game portion of our program is the most fun, because that's where we develop a plan for them to score, to go out there and actually learn how to score. And the finesse game, what I've done with the finesse game is I've taken what they've learned in the full swing, the 1, 2, 3, the push, engine, piston, and what we do in the finesse game is we break it down into what I call a 1-2 swing and a 1-1 swing. So we take one part of it out, so we disengage the piston. If we disengage the piston, then we haven't got that power, right? So now I can talk about just the one power source, which is the engine, and we can start hitting golf balls very specific distances using a clock very similar to Dave Pell's. Actually, I really like Dave Pell's short game series. I tried to read that book. It's about 600 pages long, but I'll tell you, there's some stuff in there that's fantastic, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's a little more science than I would like. So I kind of say I really like Dave uses the clock there, and where I use the clock, I call it 7, 9, and 11. There's only three places on my clock. It's very, very simple. Produces 3 different shots with exactly the same club, with exactly the same move. So what I'm teaching the client in the short game is not to try to take one club and make up 15 different moves. We teach them how to make one move consistently and learn how to hit it very specific distances using the different clubs in their bag. And we have, with our system, we have, with our system, what we do with them is once they start using that and they're only hitting it with their one power source, their engine, the ball can only go so far. So then we write that number down, put it on their club, and now they have a very specific distance that they can hit. So the way I discovered this was I went out one time and I was working on this, and I started to disengage the piston, so I didn't have any release, no release at all, and just started hitting it with my body, hitting the golf ball with my body. And I noticed, geez, that lands at the same place every time. So I stepped it off, and I put a little red towel out there, and I went back, and I went, okay, that was 25 paces. So I put 5 balls down, and I did the same thing. 9 o'clock, turn, up to 12 o'clock, and geez, I hit that little red towel. So I didn't have to stand there all day and hit 500, 600 shots. I hit 3 or 4 more shots, and then I said, geez, that goes 25. So I just wrote 25 down, and then I went to play. And every time I got between, 30 to 40 to 25, 20 yards from where I was going, I just hit that 25-yard shot, and lo and behold, I was always on the green, and I always had a putt. So I said, there's a great way to build a system for golfers to get close to the hole from anywhere around the greens, understanding that they only have to learn one move. They don't have to learn a whole bunch of different things. One move, change the club, and the ball goes a very specific distance. The finesse game, I think, is my pride and joy, because it really makes a huge difference in people's score and how they feel about themselves when they get around the greens. I'll tell them, don't worry about bunkers, don't worry about the ponds. You know for a fact that if you go to 9 o'clock on your finesse game and turn and finish high, if you make solid contact, that ball's going to fly 25 yards. Or it's going to fly 30 yards, it's going to fly 22 yards, but you know for a fact it's going to be on the green. So you don't have to worry about dumping it in the pond or dumping it in the bunker or hitting it over the back. You know for a fact it goes that far, so it gives the client, it gives the golfer tremendous confidence to pull off many different types of short game shots simply by understanding how to use that one move. And the moves are very, very simple. They're very much simpler than the full swing, and that's why I enjoy that so much. When I go out in the springtime, like I say in Canada here, we only have a few months to golf, so when I get out in the springtime, the first thing I do, fundamentals, every time I go to the range, fundamentals, and then I go to the short game area, and I just practice, like I'm going to hit this 25-yarder. In 2 or 3 swings, that goes 25 yards. I don't have to work on that anymore. And then I can play around and do other things. So the finesse game portion of the system is my pride and joy. And I think that once people get into it and actually utilize the system, actually I tell them on stage, when I'm on stage, I tell them I'm going to save 5 shots off your scorecard immediately, and I'm going to tell you why. And I ask them, how many greens in regulation do you hit in a round of golf? And I used to go around the room and I'd ask people how many greens, and people think, oh, they hit 9 or 10 or 11 greens. I said, wow. If you're hitting 9, 10, 11 greens and you're shooting in the 90s or 100s, you're either a terrible putter, right, or you can't find where you're going. Because the best players in the world only really average about 12 greens in regulation. So
right.
The amateur player averages about 3. So I said, if I can get you up and down one time, every 3 times you attempt it at a 15, there's 5 shots off your game. And I can guarantee we can do that with the short game plan at least once. And then if you get it up and down 2 times, well, then you're a different player altogether. So this is what's exciting about it, and this is what my players are so excited about. I have I have a couple of good players, a 5-time Canadian junior champion that uses my system exclusively. And he said, this is the craziest thing ever. He said, I don't care where I am. I know how far I can hit. I have to hit it, and I just hit it there by using the system. So that's my pride and joy. Now, and the other one, the putting, and I broke the putting down in. So everything I say, from chipping to finesse to pitching and putting, everything fits one. There's no contradictions, and there's no extra. Everything fits to the next part. So we're always talking about the same things. So it becomes very quickly integrated into your golf game as a whole. So that's that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, and you know, Rob. Yeah, and you know, Rob, what's interesting about that, I just want to go back for a second. You know, when you talked about the distances, a number of years ago there was a great video that had Payne Stewart. I'm trying to think of who it was. Craig Statler and Tom Kite in it, and they talked about various things. And Tom Kite talked about that sort of finesse game as well. He was one of the first players on the tour that actually used to carry 4 wedges in his bag. And he talked about, and he actually gave a demonstration about the various distances he hit each club. And it was along, again, the same lines as what you're talking about. And he was, you know, at that time, one of the best short game players on the PGA Tour during his day. So, and that's why so many people watching him with his short game, why you started seeing more and more pros adding different wedges in that. Again, they had the same swing, but they were hitting with different clubs and obviously getting different distances. And he actually recorded it. And he actually, on the video, put a piece of tape with the different yardages. So he had like 3 rings on the shaft of his club showing the different yardages he hit, just to give an example. So, again, when he was faced with a scenario in the golf course and he had, let's say, you know, maybe a 75-yard shot, he might have his pitching wedge. He knew how far exactly he needed to take it back, and he'd always hit it at that distance, you know, give or take a yard, but that distance. And that's important information. And there's not a lot of swing. Right. Trying to make was that the game doesn't have to be as difficult as we all make it. It's just having an understanding of the basics, of the fundamentals, and basically having, as you pointed out earlier, the tools, having the proper tools to start with, and understanding. And something else that you talked about earlier on, Rob, without actually really coming out and saying it, was really you teach them the cause and the effect, why things happen. So when they execute a shot, why the ball does this or why this happens over here. And that's something that I think has also been missing in today's modern game, is most of the students don't understand what's causing the ball to do different things, and that's because they're getting caught up in the numbers again. What are your thoughts there?
Well, you're absolutely right. And getting back to get us back to the numbers on the club. If you look in my book there, in my short game, you'll notice that I have around the bands of all my wedges, I have 4 numbers. And all those 4, there are some redundant ones, but all those 4 numbers. If I have to hit a shot 35 yards, I say to my clients, I said, I don't play enough golf, but I know I can't field 35 yards. I'm a 25-year pro, and I know you can't field 35 yards. So what I do is I take the club out of the bag until I see the number that says 35, and then I just hit that corresponding shot. And you know what? That takes so much. It takes so much of the guesswork out of the game. Gives you so much confidence to hit those short game shots. So I wanted to go there first. And sorry, what was the second question you asked me?
But basically what I was saying was that, you know, you talked about really having, you know, the players, not just the different numbers and distances and understanding that, but I think that a lot of folks, too, just get caught up in that. And I think that was really one of the points I wanted to make. But but no, you laid it out perfectly. So, Rob, let me tell you, because I can't believe this almost an hour has zipped by so quickly. This was a great conversation, so thank you for coming on. Yeah, it's going quick. I want to give you an opportunity to let the folks know if they would like to learn more about this, where can they go and where can they get their hot little hands on this particular program?
Well, thanks for that, Ted. You know, we do have on our website, it's at centerofgravitygolf.com. Right now, we have a 40% discount for our listeners tonight on our my downloadable program, and you can download the book and the video series on that at centerofgravitygolf.com. And there's a 100% money back guarantee. I always give a 100% money back guarantee. If they don't understand it or they don't seem to like how it works out, not to worry about it. Just let us know and we'll refund you for sure. That doesn't happen, unfortunately, but we offer it out there anyway. And we're in right now. If they wanted to have some personal one-on-one time with myself or with my vice president and tremendous instructor Doug Danoon, we can get that done here in Edmonton, Alberta, where we are right now. We're looking to expand down into the U.S. sometime soon, and we're hoping to be in a lot of places, coming up pretty quick. But the program itself is tremendously simple. It's tremendously easy to learn. The book is only 150 pages long, by the way, and it fits right in your golf bag. You can take it with you. And the videos you can have, they're all in sections. There's 12 segments of video that you can have right on your phone or on your tablet, and you can take that with you, too, if you get caught in a situation you forget. You can always look up that little part of the system. The system is it's my pride and joy, and I'll tell you, we've been tremendously successful with it, and we're so happy that we've been able to get on your show and tell more people about what we do, and to give it a try, because I guarantee it that you'll enjoy it and you'll start playing better golf, not in a week or a month, but I believe immediately once they start into the program.
Yeah, and that's key right there, Rob. What a great way to end the segment. That's critical right there, because as we were talking about earlier, you and I, but also with the group before you, this is a big problem in the industry right now, is that a lot of people are frustrated, not even just the consumers, but even some of the pros. They're just finding it difficult to try to, make it simpler. They're coming up with all different crazy ideas, and the industry, in my opinion, is really having a battle right now on how do we not only get more people interested in playing, but how do we create a system, if you will, to make it easier for people to understand. And it sounds like you've got a good jump on that, over the years working on your program. And obviously it's proven to be very successful for you. And congratulations on that, because I know that's not always an easy task. But sometimes, Rob, I think sometimes if we just try to keep things as simple as possible and not try to overcomplicate things, sometimes we get the best results.
Well, Ted, that's the Occam's razor approach, right? The simplest explanation is normally the best one, especially when you're talking to human beings one-on-one. Usually the simplest explanation is the best. And before we get, I just want to make sure that everybody understood. I have a code. There's a code to get that discount on the website, and the code is PLAYMORE, PLAYMORE, all one word. Once you get into the checkout, go check out the website, and once you get down there to the purchase area, if you type in the code PLAYMORE, PLAYMORE, that'll get you your 40% discount on the system. And I'll tell you what, if some of the listeners want to go to YouTube, I have a YouTube video. I have a few YouTube videos up there. They're doing very well, but one particular is my driver setup video. It's called Best Driver Video. If you go to YouTube and type in Best Driver Video, I think there's 3 million views on it now, and there's 50-some pages of testimonials, which will alert all the golfers out there to how fast this system works. There's 6 minutes of my program in this driver setup video, and like I said, the comments that I get on that every day, and if you have to go in and want to read a few of them, there's 50 pages of them, but it's a real testament to how simplistic, direct instruction works. Simplistic, direct instruction. The more you add to something, the more difficult it becomes to digest, and the more difficult it becomes to remember. So what we want everybody to remember what they need to do, very, very simply, and very easy to digest. So that's the whole philosophy behind the system, behind the program. And I really would like to see, I haven't been on stage for a couple of years, and I'm going to start doing some more stage presentations, and we have a lot of fun with my stage shows. And we're going to try to get into the golf shows here in Alberta this year. If anybody's up in Alberta, we're going to see if we can get into the show this year, get a stage. And people will see very quickly how fun and how easy this is to learn. And Ted, I really want to thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience, and invite them to go and see Center of Gravity Golf and give it a try. Like I said, what we say at Center of Gravity Golf is, you've got nothing to lose but strokes, right? You've got a money back guarantee, so right. Absolutely go give it a shot. And you got nothing to lose but strokes with COG. So we're behind you 100%, and we're building a tribe of instructors that deliver the program exactly the way it's written. And I think that's the key that's the key to any successful program, is that it's delivered the way it's written, and it's always delivered the same. There's no additions, there's no subtractions. That way everybody learns the same thing, everybody's on the same page, and everybody improves very, very quickly, and we have more fun on the golf course. So my goal is to raise the retention rate of golfers that start the game from 1 and 15 to 5 and 15 within the next year or two. And that's my ultimate goal, and that's where we're heading.
That's perfect. Well, Rob, thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been a pleasure, and I'm going to have you back on as we talked about the other night, and maybe get a few of our other Canadian professionals, and we'll have a Canadian night here on Golf Talk Live. But have a good week.
Fun, man. That'd be fun. Mark Evershed and a few of the guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a
we'll
lot
get
of
a
fun.
few of us on here, but. All right. Well, Rob, thank you very much for joining me tonight and being my very special guest on Golf Talk Live. And for those of you tuning into the show, and if you'd like to get access to Rob's program, go to centerofgravitygolf.com and enter the code PLAYMORE, PLAYMORE, and you'll receive a 40% discount. So you can't ask for better than that. And he guarantees you're going to lower your stroke. So, again, Rob, thanks, and have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch with you soon.
Thanks very much, Ted. Appreciate the time. And thanks to all the viewers out there. And go see the site and have some fun playing. Play more golf. That's what we're here for. Play more golf.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Ted.
All right. That was my very special guest this evening, Rob Bernard, author and creator of Center of Gravity Golf. Get Your Swing and Gear instructional book and video series. Again, if you go to centerofgravitygolf.com and enter in checkout Play More, you will receive a 40% discount off the cost of the program. So definitely worth your while checking that out. And a very interesting program. I like some of the things that Rob was talking about tonight, and I'm all for keeping things as simple as possible, and it sounds like he's done a great job with his program. Again, I want to thank my special guests as well on the Coach's Corner panel, Clint Wright and Pete Buchanan. Guys, you did a fantastic job as always, and glad you were able to join me. And I want to thank the audience as well for tuning in each and every week. And as I've said so many times, it's really through your listenership and also the many great guests that I have on here that help live a first-class show. And I am going to be looking forward to another great round of Coach's Corner next Thursday and another great guest. And just to let everybody know that on July 12th, I'm going to be traveling, so there will not be a show. There will be one next Thursday, but on the July 12th show, there will not be a show, but I will be returning the following Thursday. So I'm going to be on a little bit of a hiatus for a few days, and I'll be mid-air travel at the time, so obviously won't be able to do a show. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. God bless, and have a happy 4th of July for all of my American friends down here. I'm looking forward to a little celebration myself. And I will see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody.